Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It's Tuesday morning, June 15th, 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta. I'm just happy to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And I got my chat room open if anybody wants to sit in there and is awake and wants to hang out. That's great. If not, that's okay. And I want to continue on talking about the coping list that I found on a website for, that's just awesome. It's Michael C. Irving's website, the Child Abuse Survivor Monument. Michael C. Irving he's a psychotherapist, he's a sculptor, and he's also a survivor of child abuse. So he's just doing everything he can to help to help survivors of child abuse really, on the road to their recovery, right? And he's also, done a great thing with this child abuse monument up here in Canada, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So I would hope everybody would check out his website. You can find it a couple of ways. You can type in www.irvingstudios.com, or you can just type right into your browser Child Abuse Monument, Child Abuse Survivor Monument. Anything like that will bring up the Child Abuse Survivor Monument, which is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it's just amazing, like what he's done. He's created this monument where it allowed, I don't know how many people were involved in it. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of child abuse survivors were able to be part of this monument, and they submitted poetry, handprints. The whole thing is just amazing. I would hope everybody would go check it out. It is really a tribute to those who have survived and those who did not survive child abuse, right? So it's a great website, and I love it. And and on his website, he's got some great information regarding coping lists for adult survivors of child abuse. And I had seen these, I was on the website looking around one time, and I saw this adult survivor section. And of course, being very interested, I checked it out. And he's got some great information on there. And there's more information. I'm just going over the coping lists that I found because the coping lists are really good. There's some great information on them. To give us some ideas on how to kind of learn how to cope with this, what we've had to deal with and been traumatized by, and so that we can feel better about it, about ourselves first of all, and about life. You know what I mean? And coping is hard for anybody, even if even if they didn't survive, weren't abused as a child, right? There's lots of stress, and people have a hard time coping and managing, and so that's why coping lists are just important for everybody. So we'll just continue on with that. We were looking at yesterday morning creating a container, and there's so much great information here. There's also creating an imaginary safe place, creating a safe environment in the here and now, and these are ways to learn how to cope. We were also looking at boundaries and how to set boundaries, and whether it's cognitive boundaries, or physical boundaries, right? So important. So we'll continue on with this, and I'm not a professional counselor, or therapist. I don't have any certificates in those fields. I'm just a person who pays to do my own blog talk show, because I really feel that first of all, I'm an advocate for child rights, against child abuse. I, stand up for children's rights. I'm trying to save children's lives, but in the meantime, I'm a survivor as well. And I thought, why not do a show where I can, whatever information I find is very helpful for myself, I can share it with other people so that they can, see that there is some good information out there, and that there is some good help out there and good people out there, people who may not, who haven't, come that far in their healing. I would ask that everyone listen at their own discretion, because, we're all in different places in our healing and in our healing journey. And so if you haven't come too far, then you might want to really, be careful what you're listening to, because this type of information can trigger people. And so that's why I always, say, for everyone to listen at their own discretion, because ultimately what is best for you to listen to, right? And also young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have an adult, especially really young people, right, young children, just have an adult listen to the show with you, because it's so important. I'm trying to save children's lives, you know what I mean? And so I would ask that you would have an adult listen, because they can tell you whether or not you should be listening to this or not. I don't know how old I don't know where all the players are now. They could be placed around on all kinds of websites, and I don't know how young the people are that are listening to my shows, and that's why I just thought, it's so important that young people would have someone listen to the show just to make sure that it's okay. An adult would think, okay, it's age appropriate, you can listen to it, right? There's a lot of adult material on here. Ultimately, I am fighting to stop child abuse and fighting to bring, with everybody else's voices, to bring awareness and promote, education and prevention of child abuse, right? But still, I just think that you never know how young some of these people might be who are listening to my show, and I just hope that you would have parental consent. And if you don't have a parent, which I know can happen, that's the whole issue, right? Not everyone has a parent who cares about what they're listening to or what they're doing. But if you have someone in your life, like a teacher, a counselor, a mentor, a coach, a family member who does care, you could have them check out the show. Just have them take a listen to one of the archives or something, just to see if it's something that you should be listening to. So we'll get right on to the show here, and I left off yesterday at creating a container, and this you can find at www.irvingstudios.com. And it's great information. We were sort of stopped halfway through on this one because I sort of ran out of time, but they said imagine an object or a place where your flashbacks can be stored, and this is very important for people who have, flashbacks and obtrusive flashbacks. I know that I had, for quite a few years, suffered with flashbacks and nightmares and things like that regarding the abuse that I suffered. I could be sitting at work and get flashbacks. Actually, that still happens to me today, but they don't affect me like they used to. They used to be, I think it's because I was feeling it so deeply, and so emotionally overwhelmed by the whole thing. But because now I've moved quite a bit further in my healing, actually I would say a lot farther. They don't affect me the same way, so that I'm learning how to love myself and how to nurture myself. Actually, I've already done that. So those flashbacks don't have the same effect on me. But there's ways that we can, as survivors, learn to deal with things like this. And says, imagine the flashback in a room, and then imagine a point far off in the distance. See the room with the flashback moving off to a distant point and getting smaller and smaller as it gets further and further away. So you could actually see that flashback just moving away farther and farther until you can't even see it anymore, right? This is things that we can do in our own mind to help to push this stuff away, to push the negativity away, and to know that it's just a flashback. It's not, that it can't hurt us, you know what I mean? And that we have already survived the worst of it, right? So that's the whole issue. Now we just need to learn how to deal with the aftermath, right? And it says find an actual object for storage, like a little container or something, right? And it says write down flashbacks or draw flashbacks and put them in the container. They can be taken out at a later date if desired, right? So we could actually write down our flashbacks, put them in a container, and close the lid. And that kind of signifies, in our own mind physically, that these flashbacks are in a container. They no longer can affect me. And, this allows ourselves to deal with this stuff, right? Instead of just being constantly bombarded by it, we have control. And that's the whole issue. We do have control. About the only thing that we can control is how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. We can't really control what other people will do. As a child, growing up in an abusive home, obviously there's no control there of what people will do. If you suffered as a child, I know that I did, and there was absolutely nothing that a children can do really to protect themselves. And that's why, as an adult, you have to realize that you're no longer that child. As an adult walking around on the planet, you have every right to say no. You have every right to love yourself. You have every right to have a good life. And you don't have to continue on being that abused child, you know what I mean? And that's where I was having a lot of problems, especially about, I'd say 4 years ago, it really started to hit me because my life, I had always been just so busy running, trying to, just trying to escape it, you know what I mean? And it finally caught up with me, you know what I mean? You can't run from it, right? You can try. It doesn't work. So I had to face it, and I started sitting around and doing a whole lot of thinking about it. And but for a while there, it was really affecting me. And so I know I had a real hard time with it, and I know how hard it is. But I started to realize, hey, why do I have to suffer my whole life? Suffered as a child, watched so many people around me suffering. Why would I want to allow this to run my life so that it just runs me down to the ground, and I just suffer the rest of my life, which is what my mother did, right? She was abused as a child, and she was in an abusive marriage, and she was just miserable, and she abused us, and so she suffered her whole entire life and made everybody else suffer too, right? So that's the whole issue. It's absolutely horrible. It's a horrible way to live, and I thought, do I want to end up like that? You know what I mean? Allowing this to be the be all and end all in my life, and that I should just continue on and destroy my life the way that my parents were trying to destroy me. You know, and I thought about that. I thought, no, absolutely not. I'm an adult now. I'm my own person, and I don't have to wear that abuse that they put on me anymore. You know what I mean? And all I need to do is learn how to cope and learn how to deal with things, and I can go on to have a good life. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the whole issue. And I hope everybody out there who's listening to this, who's suffered it as a child, and you know, who's still having problems, you know, that you would know that we have to love ourselves, really, because not too many people will show the kind of love that we missed out on as a child. You know, not too many people can do that. They can't. You know, we need to become our own nurturers, and we need to learn how to love ourselves enough, you know, to so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and say, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to go on and have a great life because I deserve it, first of all. I didn't deserve any of that abuse that I took from my parents or any of their garbage, and none of my siblings did, right? And so that's the whole issue, right? It's we don't have to wear that for the rest of our lives, and we can get help. And there's lots and lots of help out there, and I wish that I would have really done this a long, long time ago, but I guess it just wasn't the right time or something, you know. But about 3 years ago is when I really started to realize that I did want to live, and that I did want to have a good life, and I didn't want to hurt myself or hurt anybody else. I just wanted to have a good life, you know. And I thought, you know, I'm already like 40 years old. I mean, it took me that long, but I had kind of been trying over the years, you know, to have a good life. But in the meantime, all of this stuff was still eating away at me, you know. So I started journaling just about 7 months ago, 8 months ago now, and started writing a blog. Actually, it's about 8 months now, 8 or 9 almost. I started writing a blog, and it was a public-facing blog, and I just started speaking my mind, telling my story from my point of view, and also just allowing the abuse that I suffered to come out on paper. By doing so, you know, I made it a public blog because I want the world to know what happened. I didn't want to go to my grave with this because 2 of my brothers went to their graves with it. One of my brothers was killed, so that's 3 brothers went to their graves with it. And so, you know, half my family went to their graves in silence. And I thought, no way, I am speaking the truth. The truth is truth. Truth is everything regarding child abuse and the issues surrounding it and why it's silenced, why so many people don't speak out, why so many children are not believed. Because abusers are manipulative. That's why. They're very manipulative. They know how to get people to obviously, or they wouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing. They generally have a lot of support. And it's just unfortunate because here the children suffer, the family suffers, and the abusers walk free and everybody thinks they're the greatest people on the planet. And so this we know can happen. And, you know, all I know is God saw everything, and so did I. And so I'm a witness, and I thought, you know, I was doing this mainly for my brothers because they were looked down upon so much by the family, and everybody just thought they were such losers, you know, and other family friends of the family thought they were just these losers because they were on drugs, they were often in trouble with the law, they had a lot of problems in their personal lives, and they didn't see what happened in that home. They didn't see, no one saw how my brothers were treated except for me and the family, and so I know the truth. You know, well, you know, we had an intervention done when my brother was young. He went to school, and the teacher noted bruises on his face, and she talked to him about it. He was wearing a turtleneck in the middle of the summer, and so the Child Protective Services got involved, you know, in our case. But my parents, they were ordered to go court-ordered counseling, or the children would be removed from the home because there was 6 of us living in the home at the time, 6 children, and so. My parents went for 2 sessions, and then we moved out of the country. So the abuse just continued. It just continued, and my brothers suffered probably the worst of it. And then myself, because I was the last child at home, and my mom couldn't cope. So my mom was my main abuser. So that's the whole issue. This stuff happens, and how do you deal with it? You know, how do you let it not destroy you? How do you let it not crush you? Well, it already crushed me. That's the whole issue. And I was a Walking Dead person. I was one of the Walking Dead. And I realized, I thought, no, I'm going to win this fight. You know, I got mad. About 3 years ago, I got mad. And I just thought, you know, there's no way. I am winning this fight. I'm going to stay alive, and I'm going to have a good life. And too bad for all those people out there who didn't stop the abuse, too bad for my parents who abused us. I'm going to go on and have a great life. So that's what I would hope that all of you would do. If you've suffered through this, that you would not let it destroy you, and you would reach out. When you need help, you need to reach out, man. I'm telling you, it's just so important. You know, one of my brothers committed suicide at the age of 33. He was a musician. He was very talented. He was a nice guy. I mean, he had so many emotional problems. I mean, he had so many friends. That's the whole issue. He had lots and lots of friends, but he was a drug user, and he was having so much hard times, but nobody saw how he was treated, and he was the one who reported the abuse, and my dad had it in for him like you wouldn't believe. My dad, you know, my parents made a life hell for us, you know what I mean? It was a living hell. And so I remember how he was treated, and I know how all of us were treated. I was paying attention. And so that's the whole issue. I decided, no way, I'm not going to the grave with this, so I started writing out my blog, and it did help. It helped a lot because I got to break the silence, you know. And I thought, you know, thank God, because now if I go to my grave, the truth is known, and that makes me feel so much better. Because too bad if it hurts people in the family. That's what I thought. You know, I don't care if it hurts the people that are still living, that, you know, that know about this, or that were actually a part of it. You know what I mean? I just don't care, because what I care about is truth and stopping child abuse, right? So it was a big step for me, and I took it, and I said, I don't care, because I want to live, and I want to have a good life, and I want to help children. I want to stop child abuse. So that's the whole issue. And I thought, no, I'm going public. So if I'm going to go public and speak about child abuse, I'm putting my story out there so that people will know that this happens all the time. It's happening right now. You know, and parents are, you know, they don't maybe start out meaning to abuse their children, but whether or not that's the case, they end up abusing their children. And children pay the price, and of course then we have to deal with this stuff later on in life. So that's why it's just so important to get help and not allow yourself to be, you know, continue suffering in silence and just continue suffering along, you know, in despair and sadness and depression. You know, that's horrible. And so we can make a container, and we can put all of our thoughts and flashbacks down on paper, and we can stick it in there. And then later on, while we're moving through our healing journey, we can go back to this container and pull them out. And we can either destroy them or we can keep them. You know, we can decide at that point what we want to do. And it says, make and decorate a container in a meaningful way, and ask someone you see as strong or supportive to give you a container. And that's kind of interesting. That would be like if you see someone like a strong person who's really strong, or maybe they're a survivor themselves, they could give you a container, and it would be like a strong container. And then you could put your stuff in there, and you would feel really strong and sort of more safe, you know. It says, imagine a safe person or an imaginary protector who takes care of you or creates containment of the flashback for you. These are things that we can do to create containers, right? It says, find your strongest place inside and provide containment for your inner child. That's quite interesting. I haven't done a whole lot of work on my inner child. I have done some, but I haven't done probably enough, you know what I mean? And so, but I do feel so much better than I used to, let me tell you, because my inner child was raging and miserable, you know what I mean? And I knew it, so it was very hard. I started to learn how to comfort my inner child by just acknowledging the fact that she was there and acknowledging the fact that she was suffering. And by doing so, she sort of started to calm down and relax and not feel so, you know, like screaming to get out, you know. And that's the whole issue. I haven't done a whole lot of looking into that. But that's why, you know, eventually I'd like to go and maybe talk to a counselor or therapist myself. I just haven't been able to afford to go. That's the whole issue. But I mean, at some point I very well might, because it's important, and they might be able to see something that I'm doing in my life, you know, that I can work on, that I don't see, right? That's the whole issue. We don't always see what's going on in our lives, because we can't take a look from the outside view, you know. And sometimes we could be self-sabotaging or doing things to ourselves that we don't even realize we're doing. And then someone could come along and say, you know, someone that trained with a trained eye could take a look, and they'd be like, oh, well, you know, maybe if you just change this, we could work on changing this, and you'd probably feel a lot better. Or, you know, we could help you, we could work with this so that you could gain some confidence and build some trust. You know, these types of things, right? It's just so important to get help, right? And then here's another part of this article from these coping lists here: creating an imaginary safe place. And this is interesting. I don't so much know if I've ever done anything like that. It says, imagine a safe place. It can be a real or imaginary place. And it says, what do you see, especially colors? What sounds do you hear? What sensations do you feel? And what smells do you smell? What people or animals would you want in your safe place? So we can create a safe place, see? And then we can pick out, like, what colors do we see in our safe place? What sounds do we hear in our safe place? Probably nice sounds, you know what I mean? Sounds of maybe like a, a stream running by, or maybe a park where there's kids playing and birds chirping, and, smell of the sound of rain. Maybe we can rain on a flower garden or something. Like, we can create these safe places for ourselves just by using your imagination, right? And then when you're feeling uncomfortable about something and you have a flashback, you can go to your safe place. And you can say, I don't have to allow that flashback to bother me and to be as obtrusive as it used to be, because I have a safe place. Right? I think it's just important, for people to know that we can use our imaginations. A lot of times when you're a child, you miss out on your childhood. I mean, if you're abused as a child, you're going to miss out on it, let me tell you. And you're not, sometimes, I was allowed to play and stuff like that, and I know, some children aren't, and that's just horrible. I was allowed to play and use my imagination, but I had fear surrounding me all the time at home, so it wasn't like it was a fun place to hang around and play, because you just never knew what was going to be happening, or who was going to be getting hit, and who was going to be screaming at who, and who was going to be beating on somebody. And so it was very stressful, and I still used to play and stuff, but I didn't feel like happy and carefree as a child, right? Because I grew up in that, from day one to day whenever, you know what I'm saying? It's like went on for my whole entire life. So, we don't often pay too much attention to using our imaginations, right? To be able to be a child and just use your imaginations. So that's the whole issue. We can do that as adults. We can allow our inner child to experience this cool stuff, that we missed out on as a child, right? Like art therapy, right, is very important for people who have suffered. If you like to draw, if you like to color, I've actually done that. I don't have children, and so it's really funny when you go and buy a coloring book and some crayons and stuff, and but people would think I was buying them for somebody else, but I was actually buying them for myself, because I wanted to allow myself to be a child in a carefree environment for a while, you know what I mean? And so I did. I bought some coloring books, and I bought some crayons, and I, as an adult, sat down and colored. And I thought, how cool is that? I don't have to deal with the fear. I don't have to deal with the pain that I was having to deal with as a child. And so I can sit here and color in a carefree existence in my own adult life and allow my inner child to experience that. And that was kind of cool. I really enjoyed it. It says here's some more of this actual creating an imaginary safe place. Imagine a protective bubble, wall, or boundary around your safe place. Imagine a door or gate with a guard at your safe place. Like nothing can get in, nothing's going to get in there at all. Imagine a lock and key to your safe place, and only you can unlock it. That's important. I think that's cool. You're the only one with the key, and you're the only one that can unlock that door and go in, and no one else. And you can draw or make a collage that represents your safe place, and choose a souvenir of your safe place, like a color, an object, or a song. And keep your image of your safe place so you can come back to it when you need to. And make a relaxation tape of your safe place. This can be combined with breathing techniques, right? So there's some cool stuff. And there's also creating a safe environment in the here and now, and I think that's really important. It says, choose a room or a safe area in your house where you can reassure yourself that you are safe. Rearrange the area so that it increases the sense of safety. Place objects around to assist with the sense of safety, and adjust the intensity of the lighting or placement of light to help you realize that you are safe, right? It says have a portable phone to make calls if you need to. Have a list of emergency and support numbers where you can see them and find them easily. Put bells on doors and windows to act as warning sounds. That's kind of a good idea, especially if you live alone. I think that's a great idea. Have comforting objects around like blankets and soft toys, and I think that's also very important. I have a lot of stuffed animals that my sweetheart gives me, and my boyfriend, and over the years, and sometimes I think, man, why do I have so many stuffed animals? But actually, they are really cool to have around, because it's very calming and soothing to have these stuffed animals, these stuffed toys, and pillows and blankets, and things like that. Just soft things that are comforting, right? Have soothing and peaceful music. I've incorporated all that stuff into my life, right, to self-soothe and to comfort myself, right, and it does help. Use blinds or partitions in a way that helps to make your environment feel safer. You can put up pictures or posters that are nurturing, protective, reassuring, or empowering, and that's a great idea. Putting up things that actually are nurturing to us or show, you know, reassuring or empowering, right? Put up affirmation cards or post-its, and put up positive letters or cards from friends. See, we can surround ourselves with all this good stuff, right? We can put up certificates or awards that make us feel stronger. We can make a wraparound, make affirmations on a t-shirt, pillowcase, or blanket and wrap yourself in it. That's kind of cool. You can put on a bunch of affirmations, positive affirmations, and things that make you feel good, you know, all these cool statements and stuff on a pillowcase, a t-shirt, a blanket, and we can wrap it around ourselves. And I think that's cool because that's wrapping around yourself positive stuff to keep out the negative, you know what I mean? A healing shield. We can make a shield of images of strength and protection and hang it in a visible place. I think that's a great idea because that is total represents protection and strength. So we could make our own shield of strength and protection. And we can hang it up where we can see it and everybody else can see it. And I think that's great, and I would love to do something like that. Wear protection like clothing. Put on jewelry and clothing that reminds you of safety and protection. Clean clutter and chaos from your house, or even just one room, just to have a place where you can just be free of all the clutter and chaos. Use a Walkman to feel focused in yourself by creating a private world. Like with earphones, a CD player, or whatever, or the MP3. Avoid substance abuse. That's a big one, and that I do. It's so important, right? Not to, like I was a big-time drug user until I was about 20, 21, and I'm talking not small amounts. I'm talking enough to kill 20 people. So, and I started when I was like 12, and I really, could have killed myself. This is the whole issue. I'm sure I did a lot of damage, and that's the whole. I'm so glad that I got off of them and I stayed off of them, and I've been just diligent, About the only thing that I do now is smoke cigarettes, and I'm still trying to get off those. But I have a hard time because I love to smoke. See, that's my crutch. It's what I allow myself to do so that I don't do other drugs. You know what I mean? So the whole issue is I quit for 14 months, and I could quit smoking, right? So I don't have to be smoking. But I haven't quite gotten to that point yet, because I'm still working on it. But I'm so glad that I don't do and use drugs anymore, because my life is so much better. As I watched people destroy their lives with drugs, and lost a lot of friends due to drugs. Some of my friends were like one of my friends was killed actually in a drug deal gone bad, shot down in his driveway, and other friends, who knows where they're even at. I have no idea. I've lost so many friends due to drugs, and I mean heavy duty drugs. So this is the whole issue. It's so sad to see people destroy their lives with drugs. But two of my brothers did. One of my brothers died of a drug overdose at the age of 43 in a shelter here in Calgary, and he was a drug user from the time he was a young kid. So he had a miserable life, and my other brother was a cokehead, and he committed suicide. And I've just seen drugs just, have been such a horrible part of my life, and I would hope that people would get some help, It says go to a diner or cafe that feels safe. I think that's a good idea. Get out with people that you feel safe in, an environment that you feel safe in. It says create a comfort kit that you can take with you that includes items such as a phone list, money for a phone call, a small teddy bear or toy, a stress ball, something like a candle that smells good, small jar of lotion, a photo of a happy time or friend, some comfort food, a small notepad and pen, and an affirmation list. So I think that's great. He's got some great stuff here. And so we got about a minute left, so we'll have to finish this. Self-nurturing is for tomorrow morning, and that's what we're going to take a look at. That is so important. So you can get this information. Just go check it out at www.irvingstudios.com. Michael C. Irving, he's the creator, founder of the Child Abuse Survivor Monument. He's also the psychotherapist, sculptor, and he's doing a great job. And, I'm just so... I just have nothing but good stuff to say about that guy, because I can't believe what he's done for people, and he's a survivor himself. So I would hope everybody would go check out his website. So have a great day, everybody. I really hope that you will tune in to Dreamcatchers Talk Radio tonight. Donna Shear and myself will be on for an hour, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. So have a great night, everyone. Take care. And, keep reaching out. Keep that hope alive. I'm so serious. If you need something, get a hold of me on Blog Talk Radio, Facebook, different places like that. I'm generally around throughout the day, so if you need something, be sure and let me know, okay? Take good care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.